Hi Earthlings. I'm going to call you Earthlings because that's kind of fun with this channel. I was about to make another video about how you can start valuing cult food science and agronomics as VC firms, but I saw a really good tweet and realized that I need to make another video instead, and also that the video I made really sucks, so I need to redo that video. It's all about my taste test of chocolate made by the Mars Company using Perfect Day. Perfect Day is the animal-free milk protein so they're making the protein and other companies will use their protein in their products. And super exciting company, but again, they don't necessarily have control over the product. It's individual companies that are going to be making those products. So I wanted to just illustrate some of the challenges you're going to get when you're building new technologies through this terrible taste test and also through this tweet. So let's just get into the tweet. Okay, tweet by Jan Dukowitz, and really sorry if I butchered that name. In the Nature Food Journal, my co-authors and I argued that the cellular meat industry needs to embrace a race to mission rather than race to market approach to the development of the technology. Now, highly recommend you read this really well written by Jan and his colleagues over at New Harvest. There is a link for free access over the next month, but I'll just go through his tweet. He makes some really good points. Cultivated meat has the potential to improve animal welfare, facilitate achieving many sustainable development goals, blah, blah, blah. So we have this new technology and it has a lot of potential. This is really similar to where things were 10 years ago with electric vehicles. I'm going to keep coming back to electric vehicles because I was working in business groups back then when we were talking about electric vehicles, and I was part of a lot of those conversations, and so I know where things were then, and we're in a very similar time then as we are now. And let's just look at the history of electric vehicles quickly. Ultimately, what ended up happening, there were a few companies that came to market, most of them through some kind of Electrify America was basically forced to build an electric vehicle charging network by the US government. The only real charging network provider to offer a good charging solution has been ChargePoint. Ultimately, the only other real winner in the market has been Tesla. There's Tesla and there's some good Chinese companies, and then maybe there's some other companies, but there's been a lot of frauds. There's been a lot of fakes. There's been a lot of people chasing easy wins in the industry, and ultimately it takes somebody like Elon who is pushing the mission forward to actually make a difference. And so I think the culture meat industry is in a very similar space. When I say this is a high risk investment, I'm not exaggerating. We have hype around the technology, and pressure from capital has driven a race for companies to commercialize products. Some products will launch soon, but the hype does stand in contrast to missed launch dates, ongoing questions about viability, and knowledge gaps. The culture meat field should not ignore such dissonance or parallels with past cases where promising biotechnology was hampered by a rush to commercialize products. Nor should they ignore the same exact thing that's happened in every other industry. Let's see electric vehicles. Here we explore 5 parameters that we believe constitute base mission objectives necessary to achieve the potential of the technology, representing minimal states of technological readiness before bringing a product to market. Makes sense. Number 1, create slaughter-free solutions. Slaughter-free cell culture is a basic requirement for mission readiness and requires transparent production processes and establishment of minimal industry-wide standards. Pretty self-explanatory. Number 2, Center health and safety. Safety cannot be assumed, it has to be proven. Developing analytical capabilities and standards for safety and nutrition should be considered a pre-competitive area where developers, regulators, analytical labs, and academics can collaborate. Point number 3, pursue sustainability proactively. There's a lot of hype around, oh, cultured meat can do these great things, reduce animal agriculture by, X% in land and water use, and it's going to save the world. Commercial scale cultured meat processes must offer greater resource efficiency, reduced environmental impact, and resistance to shocks than conventional meat production, right? You can claim all this stuff, but if you can't actually deliver, then why the fuck are you doing this in the first place? Number 4, scale for impact. Go big or go home. To accelerate the whole field, matters of scalability and eventually displacement of conventional meat should be taken up pre-competitively and cooperatively across the cultured meat producers, their suppliers, and research institutions. Number 5, practice open science. Let's look at where the computer industry, ultimately Apple became a massive company, but they were built upon decades of research and open computing. See Linux, All stakeholders should innovate data sharing and vetting methods that are easier for developers, as well as accreditation or reward systems that incentivize transparency. The nature of patents should be innovated so that they do not punish openness. Again, back to the electric vehicle industry. Elon Musk open sourced his patents. They really don't matter that much. Currently, too much private capital and too little public investment and involvement tip the scales towards a race to market. The industry can't restart from zero, but more public investment and more cooperation and transparency would benefit most stakeholders. He makes a lot more points, but essentially, we need to accelerate this industry. And so, in the electric vehicles case, Tesla came and basically did that and then open sourced their patents and kind of captured the lead, but has then essentially built all the supply chains in the industry so that other people can then start. So essentially it's one company that's accelerated the industry. In industries before that with computing, like you had Apple, Microsoft, some of these other big tech giants, Google, Facebook, But what were they all built on? They were all built upon Linux, open source, computing, all of these other systems and processes and collaboration and investment that came before it. So there's a lot of hype now around this industry. There's a long way to go. Case in point, here's a chocolate bar that I tasted a couple months ago, made by Mars Company. They're the company that makes Mars bars. And so they were using the Perfect Day protein. When I bought this chocolate bar, my expectation was that it might not taste great because I don't like Mars chocolate, but it should taste like a chocolate bar. I just wanted to do a taste test of the Perfect Day protein to see how that compared to, essentially I'm looking at it as milk replacement, right? I don't know much about food, but when I look at ingredients, you got sugar, vegetable oil, chocolate, non-animal whey protein. You would think that would replace milk. Trying to make this a vegan product, and so we're replacing the milk with the Perfect Day protein. If we look at a Snickers bar, here's the ingredients of their milk chocolate. We have sugar, cocoa butter, chocolate, skim milk, lactose, milk fat, soy lectin, artificial flavor. Most of these ingredients are the same. We got sugar first, soy lectin, artificial flavor last, The skim milk and the lactose are replaced here with the non-animal whey protein. This is probably the worst chocolate bar I've ever had. I don't know what the reason that this was put in the market. Is Mars trying to test a chocolate replacement that will eventually go into their Snickers bar? Are they just trying to drum up a bunch of advertising and hype because they're offering this cool, sustainable product, quote unquote? This is the worst chocolate bar I've ever tasted. And when I look at it, I look at this section of ingredients here, right? So after sugar, a big complaint I had in my review, as you'll see, is there's too much sugar, but this is just part of the Mars product anyways. So I'm looking at it more for, okay, can we actually replace milk proteins with Perfect Day? Because that's the point of this bar. It should be. I look at the ingredients and it's like, well, here they have cocoa butter and chocolate, and that's before you get to the milk. Versus here, the chocolate's before the milk, but before that you have a bunch of oils and stuff, and you don't have the cocoa butter either. And so you could have made cacao butter with the Perfect Day and added chocolate. And I don't know, I don't make chocolate, but just thinking logically through how you could have done this, that might have made more sense to make a better product. This product is the first one I tried from Perfect Day. It's the worst chocolate I've ever had. What is that going to then tell me about Perfect Day and other Perfect Day products? Worth thinking about. I don't want to make this review because this was probably the worst chocolate I've ever had. I was super excited to try this Perfect Day animal-free dairy chocolate made by the Mars company. I bought 5 bars and I tried it, and well, you can see my reaction. I was so pumped to try this because I really wanted to see what the Perfect Day protein was going to do, but I just couldn't do that because they mixed the ingredients. They just put so much sugar in there that it tasted kind of like chocolate you'd buy at the dollar store, except maybe even worse. And so once I put some fries, cacao, and some cream in there, it was delicious, but that completely destroys the point of trying the Perfect Day proteins. I'm going to give these guys a pass. I wish I didn't have to because I was super excited about this, but I'm going to go try some other products made by Perfect Day, and we'll see how we go with those. If you want to try this, I guess one thing you could do is like just put some baking cacao in there, because that made it. The sweetness was, I probably put the equivalent of 2 to 3 tablespoons of additional cacao in there, and that made it amazing. It was really good, but I also put cream in there, so it's kind of hard to judge. I think just putting the cacao in there would have been okay. So if you want to try this, add some of your own cacao to make it better, go for it. Maybe I'll do that in another video, but right now I'm just kind of annoyed, kind of disappointed. I'm going to try some different products with Perfect Day. That's my warning to investors. In building this industry, we need to be really careful that we're not pushing for returns too quickly, because if you do that and you develop a shitty product, you're not going to make money anyways, and you're not going to make any change, and you're just becoming one of those investors who just chases hype instead of actually trying to change an industry. And thereby, you're not even going to make that much money, because if you truly want to make the returns that you could make, you actually want to change the industry. How did Elon become so successful? Why is he the richest person in the world? Because he actually makes good products. I'm Chris. I hope that was instructive. See you in the next video.